Ba-doop-ba-doop-boop-boop. Well, what's today? Today is Friday. Is it Friday? I tell you, around here, one day seems like any other. And well, I just got done uploading 2 episodes of Salt and Light to the United States Copyright Office portal. And what can I say about that except that the Copyright Office website has been a monstrosity for at least a decade, and it's still a monstrosity. They it isn't just that they should update the interface, which they should. A little bit of CSS would go a long way for the Copyright Office site. The problem is that there's it's one of those sites that was pretty much probably back in the day designed by engineers who hey Ross, who just don't have the ability to explain clearly what things mean. And it's really, without going back to the site and logging in, it would be very difficult to show what I'm talking about, but it is pretty comically bad. And it's punitively expensive too. I mean, it's like they're still living in that age where they think if you create anything that's a video, you must be just spraying millions of dollars at it, right? It costs $65 to do a copyright. The only good news there is that you can combine multiple episodes into a single submission, right? So that's kind of good. But I needed to do that because the distributor, requires that the work be properly copywritten. So in this day and age, there's ways to copyright that don't require the Copyright Office that would have good value in a court of law, should you ever have a claim, such as storing the and I'm going to have a brain fart here. Help me out here, Russ. What is it when you run the checksum on a file, and you're going to get a when you run the checksum, you're going to get a unique number. I think it's a 256 byte number that is going to be universally unique. Like no two files for the next quadrillion years will have the same checksum. And so if you keep the file, you never delete the file, and for example, store the checksum with some identifying information on a blockchain, which back in the day I did on the Bitcoin blockchain, then you actually have a way, because that record is permanent in the blockchain. You have a way to ostensibly document that you were the earliest owner of that file, right? So, yeah, kind of interesting. I mean, there's probably, to some degree, from a legal standpoint, there's probably some value to things like uploading something to your Google Drive or even to YouTube or whatever, just because you can prove that you had access to that intellectual property at a date earlier than anyone else did, which would suggest that you're the creator or owner of that property. But if you're dealing with distribution like I am, you got to do things the old school way, the proper way, which means you go to the Copyright Office, you fill in a whole bunch of information, fill out the form, send them $65, and then upload the file. Now the good news is, the one thing that is good is, it really wasn't that long ago that the only video formats that they were accepting were like real media, like real video, which had already been a dead format for 10 years. So that I will give the Copyright Office credit for. They now accept, MP4s and QuickTimes and AVIs and all the rest. So that's an improvement. Anyway, What are we doing tonight? Well, today is going to be, I don't have a firm plan. I've really been lost in coding world all day, working on a pretty major website reboot for a client. And it's been fun. I mean, that is fun work. I like working with code. I like both the front end and the back end aspect of web development. Okay, so we've got a shot of Mel. Okay. Honestly, it's pretty probable that we could do the same thing we did yesterday, because I'm really sure that this pose could be pulled or culled from somewhere else. It's been done before. Let me consider a couple things. The first thing we want to do is, now that Mel and TNR have turned around, we're actually going to need this background that was previously on Luca for both Mel and TNR. So, what does that mean? That means we're going to open up 317, since that's got the correct background. Yep. And then we're going to delete Luca. We don't need him. Well, actually, you know what? I'll tell you what. We might just be able to cheat here. Yep, we're going to cheat. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take Luca and we're going to merge his group. Watch this. I like that pose. I'm going to delete all of these keyframes. Boom. Gone forever. Now watch this magical step. This is going to be crazy. Control M. Boop. We now have a silhouette of Luca. Anything we need to do is, I think I want him, based on the previous shot. No, actually, this is correct. His little hat would be pointed that way. So I want to shrink him down a little bit, I would say. Something like that. And wango bango. We've got our silhouette. And that was a bit too easy, wasn't it? So now what we're going to do is File, Save As, and this is going to be shot 21. So now all we got to do, actually I need to probably change Luca's positioning a little bit, because yes, he's going to be, I should put this in the preview. Once we take this shot and flip it around, obviously Luca will be over here. And, well, actually, we're going to have to put, yes, okay, right. When I did the storyboard, look at what I did. That's backwards. That doesn't work. That worked before the kids turned around. And I better make sure I'm not having a dyslexia moment here. Yes. He's going to turn, yeah, so he's on Luca's left. When Luca comes back in from the other side, he's going to be on Luca's right. So, like I said, dyslexia moment, that would be an easy mistake for me to make. So this is going to go into folder 0321 0321, and this is going to be 0321. Okay, so almost like magic, we've already got the background and the background in the silhouette of Luca done. So probably we're going to want to, actually, I think what I'll do is add a filter mask on him, and let's just pump up the blue a little bit, but maybe tone down the saturation. Yes. Okay. Actually, you know what we can do? Yeah, let's make it a filter mask. And then way I can change my mind later if I need to. So Mel's going to be right here, which means, like I said, the shot that I put in the storyboard is literally backwards. Mel is on the wrong side of the screen. So all we got to do is get the right pose and give him his voice, well, his lip sync, and good to go, right? I love it. I love it. Okay, so the best way to do that probably would be to just open up another instance of Vegas so that I can open up episode. Gosh, this could be episode 1 or 2. It seems to me that towards the end of episode 1, we had a situation where probably the pose I'm looking for is going to be there, except it's going to be reversed. But if I have to, I'll look at episodes 1 and 2. In fact, you know what? Just to be, I'll go ahead and open number 2 as well, because why not? I mean, no big deal. So let's open up episode 2, and then we'll go back to episode 1, and I just want to scan through here. And I was thinking, yeah, okay. This whole bit, as I recall, there's a bunch of shots that use this melon. I think most of it was done in Tahoma. So I really, obviously it'd be easy to fix or change, but I prefer for him to be leaning in. So I'm gonna, as opposed to leaning back. I mean, like I said, it's pretty easy to fix or change, and it's certainly, even if I have to do that, it's way the heck faster than, completely redrawing for no good reason. But evening, Darren. Okay, so anyway, I'm just gonna scan through here. I haven't seen anything that might be interesting. That actually is interesting. Now, I think that's a Krita shot. I'm pretty sure, and so the hand's gonna be baked into it. So that doesn't really buy me much. I mean, really, all we need is his head anyway. Now, this sequence of the show, things got a little cartoony. Okay, wait, that might be worth a look. Yes, in fact, you know what? This is funny because this shot is a redo that was a little too cartoony. And I remember I actually took this head and stole it from another shot in order to clean up bring the shot up to date, make it better, yada, yada, yada. This whole sequence, I did that. It was one of the last things I did on episode 1 was go in and redo a bunch of shots. So what's going on with you guys tonight? What's going on, Darren? How's life in up? That's interesting too. Now, it must be said, come to think of it, that his clothing's probably going to be wrong as well if we use something from episode 1. So it would be better if we can find something downstream here in episode 2. And the easiest of all would probably be when he's already in the woods. Okay, yeah, let's look through here. This looks like a good. You're working on your next music video. Good. Excellent. A little bit of character design. Okay, that has potential. And we'll see how far we go here. This may turn into I'll quote Mike Post. Somebody asked Mike Post, the famed composer who scored zillions and zillions of TV shows. He's asked, do you ever reach into the archives? And he said, man, it's faster to just create something from scratch. So if this takes too long, we're going to reach that point. I don't know. His characterization's a little off. Just a little off. Let's go here. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to just redo the shot. This stuff's pretty good, but something about the poses just not totally floating my boat. So, okay, that's fine. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to abandon this quest to... This is actually probably the best one I've seen. Feels the most like what I'm looking for. 225. But, meh. I'm just going to keep moving forward. Do it the hard way. So let's turn off the background. Actually, let's switch screen. Okay, we'll turn off the background. We can certainly turn off the... I need to turn this down, but not off because I need to see what I'm doing. So let's get a quick concept in here. So boom, 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 boom. Do, 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 do. It feels a little large. Am I using the right brush here? It is true that I've gotten pretty fast lately at drawing the characters and having them turn out usually to be pretty well on character, to where it is less of a well, let's just say reuse is only a matter of time savings. It's not a matter of there was a time I can remember when I would reuse shots because it's like I don't want to go through the struggle of drawing the character and have him wind up being off character, which is kind of an embarrassing thing to admit, but in this case, I think we're pretty well there. Let me look at this shot back yonder. Okay, we'll keep that on the other screen as a reference. Yeah, that's cool. And what is Darren T, the legendary Darren T, up to tonight? One wonders. On my other screen, I'm seeing if there's anything going on in the Discord. Doesn't look like it. Things are pretty Deadsville tonight, which is fine. Needn't be getting too distracted with social networking. Okay, so in the storyboard, he's kind of leaning down. I think that's kind of the reason why I wanted to go ahead and redo this shot. It's like the pose wasn't quite right. In fact, this, I would say I'm looking for just a little bit more like that. Ah, Liquify. You have helped me and saved me time so many times. Okay, so now let's get his garment right. We've got his neck. We'll just do this kind of the Mark Crilly / Christopher Hart way, as simple as possible. Just get the geometry right. Okay, and I want to maybe shift this up a bit. Yes, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Yep. Cool beans. You're out having tea with friends. Oh, nice. Or you were. Unfortunately, I have no friends. That's not really true, but I don't really go out and do stuff with friends that much. You know, because Val can, usually she can't really participate. It's kind of important for her to keep her situation extremely stable and consistent all the time. And so we just you know, we just kind of have our quiet little life here, you know. We really, really do. Um, okay, what is his, the heck is his line? Oh, that's right. You got all that. So I'm thinking shoulders. He's got those wrist or those armband thing. Hey, Sifter. Good to see you tonight, brother. All right. So with that, we can kill that, and we can kill that. And I am going to actually do 2 iterations of this time, which means I am going to basically turn the alpha way down on this, just so that I can then tighten up over top of it. My laptop and internet are acting funky today, so I might bounce back and forth sometimes. Not a problem. Nothing I'm doing is all that incredibly interesting, probably anyway. So, boo doo boo ba doo boo. Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't like that expression. Just for fun, instead of redrawing it, I'm gonna try doing a Liquify Fix. Yeah, it's fun to just mush things around and just try to find it, you know. Oops. So there's his headband, which means there's his kind of hairline. Scoop those guys out. Give the man some ears. And flip, 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 so you're getting the measurements right. I'm going to actually go shift and yes, okay, that's it. That's what I was looking for. He's talking to Luca, but at the same time, he's kind of staring into space a little bit. Because what he's saying is, you just got all that from a few chirps of monkey's chirps. Luca seems to have the uncanny ability to interpret monkey's chirps. So, that feels pretty good there, friends, I think. That feels pretty good. Okay. N key, and then as usual, whoops, A key, let's go back to Liquify, and let's just make a few adjustments here. The hair's billowing out a little too much. Yep. So anybody who thinks that it's incumbent upon them to get their drawing perfect out of the gate, don't you believe it, friends. The best artists are constantly erasing and you know, when you've got tools like Liquify, obviously you can just sculpt it. It's wonderful. Wonderful, I say. I'm on the wrong shot up here. I need a better reference. Hello, where's my reference? I guess that is pretty much what I was intending to look for, or look at. Okay, and so he's got some. Yeah, I didn't do anything else to my local copy of the Usetti I Dreams website today. What I've got to do, I'll just talk about this because it's interesting to me and it's probably about as interesting as watching paint dry for you guys, but basically each of the folders in the site has a gallery of you know, like a lot of pictures, right? So the challenge is that, first of all, each the galleries are baked into the HTML. So each folder's got an HTML file that has the actual list of images. So now you could mitigate, if you didn't have that, you can get around it by, I mean, I've already got PHP code that will interrogate a directory and then come back with a list of all the files in the directory. So that's pretty solvable. But if they already did the work for me, why am I going to redo it? Okay. So then the question is, how do we add some functionality? So what I've got to do, it doesn't do me any good to point all of the galleries to a single HTML file where I sort of do some gallery-specific machinations in JavaScript. You could do that, but the problem is that the file names are baked into the HTML in each folder. Well, Luke could be in silhouette. He would have the most light on him being at the mouth of the cave. Yeah. You know, Ross, it's people like you that make my life difficult by coming in here and pointing out to me how stupid I am. I don't really appreciate that. But you're right. Okay, I will say that I'm being facetious, obviously. But yeah, you're right. That is true. I think that it's an interesting point that for purposes of a shot like this, probably the solution to that would be kind of a reverse rim light situation. So meaning what? Meaning flatten this layer and then actually add an alpha locked layer around it. And I, make no guarantees about how well this will work, but I'm thinking just kind of do the opposite of what I usually do. Like so. And probably blur it a little bit. So I'm totally spitballing here. I don't know if this is really the right answer, but I'm thinking something of that nature. That looks pretty awful. So, yeah, actually you're right. The whole silhouette idea is actually the problem. The problem is he shouldn't be in a silhouette. I didn't even think of that. So, if that's the case, then let's see if we can do a really quick fixie poo. I'm gonna do I'm gonna look at this shot here. So what I'm doing is I am literally in real time going to correct my own silliness. Okay? And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to sample this color right here. And I'm going to hit the G key. And just, this is alpha locked, so that means I can fill all that in. Did I close that? Oh, I see what I did. I forgot I pasted it onto another layer. I'm using the shadow colors so that he is kind of on the dark-ish side. And actually, it would be wise to grab this color first. G key, and then I want to be a little cognizant of the shape. Like that. We could lighten that a bit. Perhaps do, that's too much, holy cow. Boy, it's amazing how little contrast is required. Okay, and then we're going to go back to behind mode. Sample the skin color. I guess I will use the lighter color and kind of see how that feels. Okay, so we're in behind mode, so that means we can just go like that. And I would say just a couple notches darker, I think. Yeah, that's probably okay. And then, this is a little risky behavior, but I'm going to lower this down to 15% or so in normal mode. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just totally wing it on some shadowing here. Okay. So I would say that probably solves it. And we can always retreat from that if I wanted to. And now this could actually be dialed in. Well, I should say dialed back if you want to suggest, hey, this is moonlight we're talking about. So you could maybe do that. But I think that gets us there. You good? You good? Thank you for pointing that out. As I like to say, I'm just smart enough to realize how dumb I am. So I don't think I need that anymore. And I can get back to work. Okay, and one other point that does bear probably mentioning here is it looks to me like probably Luca's a little bit large in this shot. So, cool. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it. Time to take a sip of my tasty beverage. It's a good example of where you know, a little bit of a team dynamic probably makes my work a little better than a little worse. Okay, this is a pencil test, but let's consider, I'm going to say this is his landing point, so I'm going to do the usual thing. I'm going to say we've got half a second to get into the shot. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, and these are just guides because ultimately this is just like the Lucas shot. He's going to be just moving into his landing position. All we really have to draw is this. So if you guys are going, what are you even talking about? This is what I'm talking about. Now that we've got these animation keyframes in here, I'm going to make this nice and big. I'm just going to find it. That feels pretty good. Turn on the skins. Okay, so ultimately I'll do the same thing with the fully inked and colored version, right? So now this keyframe can be smacked back here, and so now what that means is that once the shot begins, that's what we're going to see happen. And when you I'll render this out, and you'll be able to see how when it flows together, it, you know, our edits here are sufficiently, you know, boom, 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 that it's going to work. Okay, I guess we'll leave this out for illustration purposes, and then we need to tweak the render settings. This is supposed to be 21. Yep, 21. And the path, of course, likewise needs to be 21. Let's render that, baby. I know it's ridiculous to render out 80 frames, but I don't care. Okay, so we're gonna go over here, and you guys can't see this, but I'm doing it so quickly that there's no reason to. Actually, I was wrong. That's only 26 frames. And cancel that. That's actually not going to work. Yeah, this shot, I'm going to go back up to 80 because I don't think it's going to be 10 seconds long, but it's certainly going to be more than like 4. Because he says, wait, you got all that from just a few chirps? Impressive. Now, the interesting thing about that, by the way, is that he's going to say, wait, you got all that from a few chirps? Boom. Right there, what we should do is take these 2 frames and reverse them. Let's select these and go mirror frames. And then I'm going to grab my, come on, I'm going to grab my Liquify and just try to find a pose. The great thing about doing it this way is, you know, if the pose doesn't work, well, it's no big deal. I'm doing it on a different keyframe. You know? And you could even go Something like this. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, yeah, no great loss. I'm just throwing a shrug in there. Wait. Oh, come on. I don't want a selection, Krita. Wait. You got all that from us. Okay. Here's the thing about the shrug. The shrug's okay. It is not completely right structurally. You know, the drawing of it isn't right. But the idea of it is about right. And here's the thing. If you're going to do a shrug, you really want a counter move in the head. So the shoulders come up. Wait. Impressive. So this is not quite right. I'm looking at this and I'm saying it's about 70% of the way there in terms of how it feels. It's okay. It definitely is giving me a good sense of what the timing's got to be and the acting. There's a case to be made here, though. I'm kind of seeing this unfold in real time, is that the shrug concept maybe belongs here. Let's throw a little bit of a different tween in the middle of this just to see what that feels like. I just want to see what that feels like. Wait. Yes, look at that. Oh my God. Exactly. Exactly. Wait, you got all that from a... Okay, and this is a little late, so I'm going to smack this downstream a little bit. Wait, you got all that from a few chirps? Impressive. Okay, that's, you know, it's not perfectly perfect, but it's close enough. And it's clear that we will be able to do a single drawing and make all of this work. Definitely. So that's some good economies, definitely. I know Ross is out there cheering for me right now, saying, Dave, yeah, dude. Because Ross is a pragmatic animator. This part right here, I think, is just spot on. Smacking his head down a bit right there is exactly the right idea. This I'm not so sure about, but it might be because of the way the shoulders are crunching in. So this is the frame that's actually making it feel less successful than it probably should be, because he's let me just cycle that. Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's okay. There's a little too much distortion going on clearly. But that's all right. We can, you know, and think about this. Think about at that bottom point, isn't it true that you would probably oh, I got the wrong brush. And I really should be red. Okay, so we'll smack this in here too. Like that. We're going to just erase the eyes. And there would be a blink here as well, just so you know. Oh, come on. I'll tell you, that's one thing that's been kind of irritating me lately is Krita is notorious for, and I used to complain about Tahoma for the same reason, but notorious for missing. If you do a 2-sequence hotkey sequence, it'll miss the second key, like often. Yeah, okay. And then here, theoretically, you would probably have the same thing. Control insert, go back 1 frame, hit G, and then wait a tiny half second before hitting E so that it doesn't miss the hotkey. B, E. So I'm just smacking a... and now watch this. I'm going to grab just the eyebrows. I'm just going to grab the eyebrows. See that? Blanc. Impressive. And then that's enough of a change that it suggests perhaps a bit of a smack up, then a recoil. Impressive. Nope, that's too fast. Yep, something like that. Okay, Sifter's got some stuff. Welcome to the club. Whoa, bunch of crap happened in the. Well, Luke could be okay. Yes, silhouette. Hi all. Okay, hey Maria. The woohoo. Okay, yeah, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Welcome to the Club Maria. Yes, cheering for the Liquify tool again. Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're getting a lot of acting out of one drawing here. And we know that that's going to propagate through to the, I see what's wrong. That's going to propagate through to the inked and painted version. But what I am seeing here, by the way, is I'm just going to keep working with this. Because I'm feeling a slight shift there. Okay. Okay, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this. I'm going to get rid of those keys right there. He has a one slight move back. And then let's just try this. Okay, this is going to be an interesting move. Watch this. Watch this. Slight shift. Slight shift. Okay. Then just hit the A key and go to a free transform. And move this back. Okay, that didn't work at all. That did not do what I wanted it to do. What I'm trying to do is this. Take this, that, and actually just flip it. Okay. Impressive. Okay, we'll see. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think I'm just going to get rid of this whole bit. Because I kind of had one extra sequence in there anyway, it seems like. Right? Impressive. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. This happens too late, but I'm not quite sure how I wound up with a whole extra sequence in there, but that's because I guess I'm moving fast and not paying attention. I would love Liquify in Open Tunes. Yep, everybody agrees. Well, you guys have the ear of I forget his name, but I mean I know Tom doing art interacts with the one dude that's in the involved with the development, and so turning on the light. So I mean, let's face it, the code for how Liquify works is open in Krita, so I mean, it's not ridiculous that they'd be able to kind of pilfer the way the code works and just saying. All right, so I'm going to make one more change as long as we're doing all this in a pencil test. I'm going to go ahead and do a little more because I'm having way too much fun. Okay. Same concept here. Unfortunately, I have to reselect them. So the idea is that Mel is baffled that Luca is able to discern as much information as he gets from Monkey's chirps. Okay, so the only caveat here might be that I kind of did the same thing here. So let's maybe mod this a skosh. And we'll just fiddle with it. Impressive. Okay. I'm going to keep playing with the... It's almost like the Mr. Spot kind of eyebrow thing going on. Yeah, we'll go with that for the moment. Doesn't really matter that much. Okay, and we need to render the full 80, so there it is. Boom. And now, okay, would the concept of Liquify be compatible with OpenTunes Tahoma programming? You know, I don't know why not. If you look at what the selection tool can do, okay, in Tahoma, obviously you have the ability to you can hit the control key to move the corners of the box. So that means you can stretch things in strange directions. So at the end of the day, what's really going on there? Well, what's going on is you've got to take the selection and you're resolving it to a grid of pixels. Presumably you're gonna subsample it, you know, maybe as like 4x4 squares. So every pixel is actually becomes 4 or even 16 squares internally. You're doing the same thing effectively by scaling the image up, you know, by a factor of 4 in each dimension. And so then the idea is that you're going to have to come up with a range, an influence range, where if I click here, then based on the size of the Liquify tool, we're going to have a gradient of force, if you will. Okay, and so then what's going to happen is I'm going to move my mouse to here. Well, when I move my mouse to here, obviously this pixel is going to move to here, but as we get further and further away from that pixel, the pixels out here will be moved only a little bit. So then what will happen is you'll wind up with a distortion that looks something like this. Not at all ridiculous. I mean, I don't even think the programming of it's necessarily all that difficult, actually. The problem with programming it, for me personally, has less to do with the difficulty of how the algorithm would work, because to me it's pretty obvious. The difficulty is with navigating the source code and just dealing with all the dependencies involved with building it. I mean, for me, that's totally the issue. And it's amazing how absent in the now this is my contention. Other people might disagree if they've actually done more open source participation from a coding standpoint. My sense is that having looked at the development ecosystem for Krita and to a lesser extent OpenTunes and Tahoma 2D, my sense is that basically nobody does a really good job of documenting the code base so that it becomes relatively easy for people to participate, and particularly to participate in a way that is safe. Okay, so what I mean by safe is it would be really nice if you knew what the region of the code base is that does what you want to do. It'd be nice if you could work with just that part of the code base and not necessarily have to go through the rite of passage that setting up a development environment for a program like Krita requires, because it is a rite of passage. It's almost as if there is secret knowledge that once you've kind of proven you've made a sufficient effort to a certain point, then by asking around in forums and whatnot, you can begin to get the questions answered to sort of put the final pieces of the puzzle into place. But in my experience, it's a brutal rite of passage. One could argue that it should be. I don't think it should be. I think it's I think writing code that's relatively well, first of all, vociferously documented, but then relatively easy to navigate is just not that hard to do, and I haven't really seen it. It's more complicated than that. Shun is very busy, and the only way to get a feature in is by paying devs to do it. Well, and that's fair. That has. I get it. You're saying it's more complicated than just saying something to him, or even spelling out what you think needs to be done algorithmically. I get that. You're right. Um, the problem is sometimes useless features are prioritized. Well, yeah, and I think in Krita and Tahoma both, um, stabilizing what already works is the great um, missing step. That's a step that doesn't happen that much or that well in open source. Whereas in a commercial program, it tends to happen because it has to, because you got customers who aren't going to pay you for an upgrade if you're doing a crappy job. And so what happens with Krita is you tend to get new features that look really exciting at a glance, and then when you dig in and you start seeing all the ways that it causes crashes and causes other things that worked fine for 6 months to a year to break, um, it's really comically sad. In 3 years, there have basically been 3 versions of Krita that have been sufficiently stable all the way around that I've been comfortable going ahead and using the program. So there's been many updates. There's really only been 3 versions. I think 4.1.7, and then there was another later 4 version, version. And then 5's been pretty good, actually. All in all, 5's been pretty good. The problem with 5 is they're falling into the same thing they have done all along, which is they introduced new features in 5.1 that really broke a bunch of other stuff, and I won't get into all the things, but I won't use 5.1. I'm going to wait. I'll keep trying it, when new versions come out. I'll keep poking at the tires to see if it's, worth looking at. But this version that I'm using, 5.0.6, has been a really good, one of the better ones. And I am not inclined to dink with it. So anyway, I probably should render this and bring it into the show because I keep saying I will. Boop 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 boop. But that's just a whole nother thing, isn't it? I mean, development. To me, it's like you make a choice. Are you going to be a developer or are you going to be a creator? Because it's just there's not time to do both, well, that's for sure. Okay, so are we in the right shot? I guess we are. So let's open the sequence at a glorious 8 frames per second. Okay, this can be deleted. Well, I guess we can just clean the project media. Pull this into the show. Cancel that. Cancel that. Okay, I don't know what I just did. That's 321. Why is it not here? Sorry guys, okay, oh, I know what I did. I did something dumb. I imported it but didn't drag it into the timeline, so when I cleaned the media pool, it cleaned it out too. That is not Vegas's fault. That's my mistake for sure. Okay, so now let's see what we have. Monkey, monkey, monkey. He comes in. Looks like monkeys. Looks like there's soldiers marching towards Gripson. Wait, you got all that from a few chirps? Impressive. Okay, I don't really like the eyebrow at the end, and I'm not at all sure that I'm sold on the his body language. Yes, something's got to be done with his arms at the end. So that's fine. It's all good. It's all good. All right. Wait. Okay, right there. I would say right there. This is kind of what I was talking about the other day. You know, I'm trying to be really vigilant to when and where things are starting to go wrong. And when I played it back, everything felt great till I got about right there. It's like, ooh, something's not quite there. That's better. Let that arm fall. I think probably both of them, actually. Boom, 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 and finally, boom. Okay, which means all of these arms are wrong. Okay, I'm going to make my life easy by just erasing all of them so that I don't have to look at them. Because, frankly, it doesn't matter. This is what matters. So, because once it gets to here, the arms aren't really going to change. I definitely think the shoulder situation's a little off. Right there, probably. But this is all just nitpicking because, frankly, this would all get fixed at the ink and paint stage anyway. So it's a bit silly to waste a lot of time on it. Excuse me. As I said, what I'm really not sold on is this. What I did with the eyebrows, I think, is not. It's. I've done it too much, so it's becoming boring. So I'm going to go ahead and just raise them up like that and let it go for the moment. Save that. Okay, how we doing on time? I've been at it for an hour. My lovely princess is napping, so if she gets up, I'm probably going to cut this short and hang out with her for a bit. Because it's always my pleasure and delight to hang out with my beautiful princess, whom I love with all my heart. I really do. Okay, so clearly it would behoove us to put Melchizedek's shoulders in, or I'm shoulders, his eyebrows. Okay, well, I was thinking about the shoulder animation too, right? But yeah, I'm thinking we should put his eyebrows in their own layer. Sorry for that ridiculous gaffe on my part, friends. I'm going to actually experiment too with cutting our brush from 4 pixels to 3, and I would say, you know what, I think not. I would say no. So, this is where flipping helps. Yeah, see that? That's, I mean, we can fix it with Liquify as usual, but, yep. Do 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 do. So now this is the magic shot, meaning there's a bunch of Liquify shots, or poses, if you will, keyframe, that are going to be based on this one. So we want to really be a little bit meticulous here. That's a little bit short. Yep. Boom. B key. Alrighty, I'll just go like that. This is something I don't do a ton of, but it definitely has proven quite useful in many cases. Rather than using the stabilizer, just rotate the screen like that. Makes it way easier to get nice clean lines. Like so. Your mileage may vary, but that's what I found. So yeah, for those who weren't here, Luca is not letting on that he got monkey sign language as well. Well, not at this point. I'm not. I don't know if there's a little tongue in cheek there, but I'm assuming it's a kind of a serious question. Obviously, Luca, it's a storytelling problem. Luca actually is clearly interpreting sign language. Okay, but there's no reason um, to say so at this juncture because of the way the dialogue progresses. So he just tells him what he tells him, and Mel makes his comment. But then Tia immediately jumps in and says, geez, maybe going to Gripson's not such a great idea. And that really pushes the dialogue in that direction to the question of whether they should do that. And so the matter of how he was able to discern Monkey's meaning is pretty much left on the table. And that's fine. This is just a brief little, it's not funny, so I wouldn't call it a comedy moment. It's just one of those, you're just getting a glimpse of the character. It's probably a good example of Mel showing a character that's similar to Sokka in Avatar. You know, the way he's like, well, you gonna do that? Impressive. You know, it's kind of the same attitude. So that's all this is really there for. It is certainly one of the little bits that if you got crunched for time, it would get cut out of the show probably, just because it's not that germane to the plot development. But as I kind of talked about a little bit yesterday, that's kind of what I'm doing here in episode 3. I'm allowing my creativity to flow a little more fluidly in the animation stage without being constrained to a written script, in order to allow just whatever feels good. You know, if something occurs to me that I would like to see on the screen, then I want to make it happen on the screen and just let it flow. So I'm really trying to be sensitive to what feels good to me, as if I was watching someone else's show. Would I enjoy that little moment there, you know? And it's hard because you are dealing with little moments. You're dealing with microscopic bits of action that are not fully appreciated in terms of their entertainment value until they're in the context of a show that you're watching from beginning to end, and you're not pausing it. You know, you're not thinking it to death. You're just watching the darn thing, you know? And that is one of the hardest things for a filmmaker. Okay, and I can tell you, I fouled it up badly in my first several movies. I finally started getting it right. Well, I actually started getting it right with Disconnect, Reconnect. Well, no, with Healed by Grace. Healed by Grace 1. I definitely started getting a sense of pacing. You know, you just feel it. And actually, what made that happen, that transition happen for me, was doing what I'm doing here on Salt and Light, episode 3, which is when I was writing the screenplay, I was really just seeing it in my mind. How does this feel? Is it starting to drag? You know, and it's something that anyone can learn, but it does take practice to get that sensitivity to pacing. You know, and I can say that, and I may wind up missing the mark. You know, there's no guarantees here. But we'll see. We will see, my friends. We will see. All right, 5 key and N key. Okay, I think we're in good shape. Let's solo that and take a look. Oh yeah, looks good. That does look good. Okay, we're not going to fiddle with the eyebrows, so that means we need to insert a keyframe for sure. Okay, now what we're going to do is... Now, hold on, we got a decision to make here. Maria says the best thing you can do in creating something is to please yourself. Absolutely. And in the end, that's the thing that counts. And then, you know, here's what actually happens. This definitely happened in my filmmaking arc. You have a sense of what will work or what you think should work, but your sensitivities are not developed enough that you've learned how to take what you see and you perceive and you feel when you're watching a movie and translate it accurately into what that would look like if you were doing it microscopically. Writing a script, editing a show, breaking it down second by second. Okay? So when you start out, you think you know what will work, and then you go through, at least this is what happened to me, you go through a season where you really lie to yourself because you've got so much time and energy invested in this thing that you start to see things that are not working, and you make excuses and you tell yourself all the reasons why it is working, even though your deepest gut, viscerally, you just can tell it's not good enough. Okay? And that definitely happened to me. And for me, I was cursed a little bit in the sense that my very first movie I ever made was actually pretty good in many ways. My basic raw talent came through in that movie, but there were enough egregious things about it in the casting and the acting and the you could say the B story, sort of the thread that goes through it. So it's like 2/3 of the movie was actually surprisingly good for a first film, and the other third was awful, kind of thing, right? And so then you know, you kick yourself and and then you think, okay, well, this is what will work, you know, and you keep trying things, and it just takes, you know, it just takes practice to learn how to um, accurately assess what is going to work from a storytelling standpoint. That's what happened to me. So there was, you know, there was the 18-month window, and there was Tirbawasi, and the studio was had a lot of interesting bits in it, but the overall story was way too weak. Then there was Out of Time, which was actually a very good concept and screenplay with really good special effects for a movie that was made for less than $10,000. It was kind of amazing, actually. The problem was I made some really wrong decisions casting wise, and the people that were playing the parts just couldn't quite drive that thing to the finish line. So that was 4 movies, and that was when I went and said, okay, I'm going to go meet with a distributor, figure out what's selling, and I'm just going to write to that. And then that was when I did Healed by Grace, and then that movie did great. You know, so don't forget his nose. Thank you. I just did that. I thought of it too. So the reason I hesitated, and by the way, guys, I'm thinking I'm probably going to wrap this up. 90 minutes is probably enough. What made me hesitate a little bit ago was that there's a strong case in this case to be made for going ahead and coloring him, doing a so we'll call this ink, and doing a color layer, because if I'm going to use Liquify to move him around, I might as well you know, I could use Liquify to move the ink lines around and then have to color every frame, or I can do it all in one frame. And then the only thing that I'm gonna have to go back and do again and again is some tweaks on his eyebrows, you know, which is pretty brain dead. So I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna do is bake the color in. So we're gonna want a keyframe there. This is irrelevant. That keyframe right there should just be deleted because we're going to be working back to it. Okay, so that's what we've got. Yeah, it's all Liquify stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of running out of gas. I'm thinking I've probably puked out enough productivity here for an hour and a half, and I'm feeling like I'm ready to go grab a bite or something. So, well, any comments or questions before I call it a session here, folks? Yep, I'm gonna wrap this one up. I may wind up coming back to it, you know, in an hour or something, but I probably won't live stream anymore. So I guess that's it. You guys have a great night. As you know, there will